The original.
Walk in and just see like some dude's ass. It's like, what? Go to the stall. Go to the fucking stall.
Welcome to Behind the Sins, presented by CinemaSins.
Welcome to Behind the Sins, a weekly look at everything going on inside the world of CinemaSins. I'm Aaron Dicer, and I'm joined as always by Jonathan Watkins.
Hello, hello.
And Danae Hughes.
Hello, hello.
We write for CinemaSins and TV Sins and do various other things inside the CinemaSins universe as well. Jonathan, she's stealing your thing.
It's okay. If you're going to get your stuff stolen,
was a good one.
Danae Hughes is a pretty good person to steal your stuff.
My favorite part was how at the very end...
I don't own that.
At the very end, you're like, I better add a third one so I don't get sued for copyright infringement.
Dude, I stole it. I mean, I pay homage to a carrot.
Cheese? You pay cheese?
No, that's fromage.
Oh, sorry.
I feel like every week it'll be just Jonathan and I going back and forth, adding one more hello. You know,
we should do that.
Cut to 3 years from now. It's like, it's Jonathan Watkins. Hello, 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 hello.
Yep.
And Danae Hughes. Hello, 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 hello.
Hello. Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's how it's all going to work. Well, hopefully 3 years from now, we'll still be looking at all the cool stuff that we get to write sins about, because that's what we do here. So let's go ahead and get into it with the SinSide Scoop.
What's he building in there?
I've got a secret.
Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
This is a true story.
We're going to take a look at the videos from the week, the process of sending them, how we felt about the stuff we are sinning in general. We'll kick it off with commercial sins. Oscar Meyer Deli Fresh is the commercial Jeremy wrote on this one. Did Jeremy have any thoughts on the Oscar Meyer commercial for this week?
Jeremy has thoughts. Do you want to hear them?
Yes, Danae. That's why I asked. Why don't you read them to us?
Well, he has thoughts for the movie, but I think because of the scheduling shift, we don't have any specific thoughts for the Oscar Meyer this week.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Jeremy eats bologna all the time.
Just bologna for breakfast, bologna for
Or
lunch,
is he just
bologna
full
for
of
dinner.
bologna? I can't remember.
That's what it is.
Do you guys like bologna?
No.
This is not about bologna, but I always think of bologna when I think of Oscar Meyer.
Uh-huh.
I mean, let's talk about it. We can certainly give our thoughts on bologna. I used to eat bologna.
I figured you did.
I used to eat bologna and ketchup sandwiches all the time growing up. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
I would think mustard would be the...
Well, I can't stand mustard. I can barely stand ketchup. That's why I stopped eating them. Also because they were gross. I don't know what I was thinking. But yeah,
but it worked
that
for
was
you.
It was one of my favorite sandwiches. I think it was one of those things where it was like I knew it got a reaction, and so I'd be like, "Yeah, I like bologna and ketchup," and people were like, "You're gross," and I'm like, "Yeah, I am."
You're not the only kid that ate that, though. There's no way.
No way. I'm sure there are
kids
others.
put like ketchup on steaks, you know. So I mean,
people put ketchup on everything. Eggs, that's a big one. There are a lot of people who put ketchup on their eggs, and I don't understand it.
And I know you're not a hot sauce person, but I would think that makes more sense to you than ketchup. And people will tell me, well, ketchup's like hot sauce. I'm like, no, not really.
No, not really. No, not the same thing.
I mean, I get where you're going with that, but it's like you're talking about something very thick and tomatoey and, you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
Very different.
Danae, what are some of your thoughts on this commercial and the sins therein?
Well, I am continue to be impressed with the ability to find things wrong. There are sometimes I'll watch a TV show or a movie and I'm like, how are we going to go about this? But this one was really fun to listen to. Just the perspective of all the different things. We were inside a refrigerator for the entire thing. Mm-hmm. And that was a little uncomfortable for me. I'm not going to lie. I realized that maybe a little bit more perspective rather than just constantly being in the refrigerator. It just made me feel like a little closed in. I didn't think I was claustrophobic, but after watching this commercial, I kept thinking, I just want to get out of this refrigerator, you know?
Sure.
And also, this is a really clean refrigerator. This is so unrealistic. So I really enjoyed all the sins about how unrealistic the refrigerator experience was because we spent so much time inside of it. But my favorite joke that I wrote down was the college girlfriends joke, which was also my college girlfriend's high school nickname was knock shit over trying to get to the meat. And I didn't understand it until after we'd broken up. Anyway, thought that was really clever.
Yeah, no, I had that one too. Jonathan, what about you?
I just like the ecto cooler reference with the pitcher of green liquid. It was just like in the background. It was like, don't be promoting heavy meat, but be drinking ecto cooler.
Yep.
And then I appreciated she's walking away and leaving the fridge wide open, because I give my daughter an oh my god daily about that.
Yes. What is it with doors and children? Close the doors.
And then I just like to make every sandwich count is the tagline with days old meat in a plastic box.
Yeah.
So I thought that was funny.
Yeah, you guys mentioned all the ones that I enjoyed too.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's great. I think these are the most fun kind of commercials to sin, because they are so production heavy, and it's like it's so easy to pick out kind of things that are like, well, that's not the real world. That's obviously a commercial thing. So I really enjoy it.
Well, there are cameras in everybody's fridge. I didn't know if they knew that.
That's true. Yes, that is true.
Yeah.
That's a fair
so every
point.
time you open the fridge, you might want to have some clothes on.
Or not, depending on what you prefer.
I remember seeing my first refrigerator that actually scans the interior of the fridge and tells you if you need to get something from the store.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I thought, what is this world I live in now? What is this place?
I'm surprised Aaron doesn't have one of those.
They're pretty interesting.
They are
where you just
interesting.
turn the camera on and you scan through your items. You don't have to open it up, which I suppose
Do they just know what you normally buy, or is it just...
You have an inventory list, and like it matches stuff up to inventory and that kind of stuff. Yeah. So, yeah.
Fascinating.
It is. Technology is amazing.
And then it drives you to the store.
No, the self-driving car brings the stuff over.
It transports the food from the grocery to the fridge, and it's not stealing.
Yes.
Because it's transporting.
Correct. Let's move into TV sins for the week. Another brand new Rick and Morty. This would be episode 5 of the new season. Amortycan Grickfitti. Jonathan and I wrote on this one. Jonathan, why don't you kick us off with some of your thoughts about this episode, the writing process, and some sins you liked?
I thought this was kind of funny. I'm not like a Hellraiser fan. I think I've seen the first couple movies, maybe the third one, but I that's definitely not like a franchise I've ever like really gotten into. But I did think it was funny because I had seen at least enough of it to get the humor with all the different Cenobites and whatnot. So I thought all that was kind of funny. I didn't really care as much about Morty's plot line with trying to impress the new kid.
Yeah.
Butt Chuckback or whatever his name was.
That was not it, but it was Bruce Chuckback, I believe. But Butt Chuckback is a totally different character.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I read the wrong wiki fan page. But yeah, no, it was a really fun one to mess around with because there was a lot of material to go after. It's some of my favorite stuff. We send the fruit bowl again. I think Danae started that like back in
I did.
some episode.
That's one of the things I'm really.
Did it start with Rick and Morty or Friends? Because I know we've done it on both.
I don't know. I remember finding it on Rick and Morty and I just thought, why would anyone put fruit on the bottom shelf? It just seems so ridiculous. And so it was one of my favorite ones of I wrote it down.
Never
it's
moved.
so funny. No.
It's never moved. It's there
it's
all the
just a
time.
staple. I'm actually impressed with Rick and Morty for doing that. And I went back into, I think I went on a Reddit thread, and it's always interesting to me when they build a room or something and they have like very particular posters or things, and they're so consistent with it. I was hoping to find some inconsistency when we send the episode where he, the Captain Planetina episode. There's a couple of really clear shots. I mean, obviously the animation's gotten a little bit like crisper and such, but there's a couple of clear shots of his room where there's just posters, and I thought maybe there's some inconsistency with posters, and so I went to Reddit, and like the room layout is surprisingly very, very accurate. So yeah, they've put that fruit bowl there, and that's that they're committed to it. So
yeah,
because I assume they have to reanimate that every time, right? Do they have
think so.
Well, I mean, maybe
I don't
maybe
know
they
how
have
it works now. I
I
know
don't
there's some
know.
digital things that they can do in rooms, but
Yeah.
Rick and Morty still seems fairly hand drawn to me.
yeah. Well,
so-
just the different, I always look at the things on the walls to see if they move or shift. Like there's a particular pictures in the kitchen, or not the kitchen, but the dining room area. I think of a horse and like a flower or something.
Yeah.
And I always look at that and think, well, why that there? But it doesn't seem to change very much. And I even looked for inconsistencies in the decoy episode because I thought that decoys would have maybe different, like slightly different things that would help us to sort of know which family we were following.
Oh, neat.
Yeah.
But it seems to be pretty consistent with what it's doing. And it's definitely sinful to have a bowl of fruit on like just inches from the floor.
And there are plenty of people in the comments being like, have you ever seen like fake fruit bowls for decoration? It's like, yes, but that doesn't excuse like the idea
why
of
would
like,
you put
a fake
why would
fruit
you put
bowl.
that there?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah. Anyhow,
It's weird placement. That's like where you put books or records or something. I don't know. The Jurassic Park reference in the show, and then the son was explaining your references. You could be brilliant, Rick and Morty, but you're a coward. Black Swan. I just thought that was cool. And then Aaron sent the zippers near genitals, and I have so many questions about what you would prefer.
really?
Are you saying it should be
have
like
questions?
buttons?
Yes.
Well, I mean,
Anything else? Velcro,
I've never really
buttons, sew them together. Quit putting zippers.
I mean, I wouldn't want to have to like. I wouldn't want to have to like take my whole pants off to, use the urinal. I do see people that do that. Unfortunately, God, I hate men's rooms so much, I hate men's rooms. Walk in and just see like some dude's ass. It's like, what? Go to the stall. Go to the fucking stall. This just happened at the movie theater like 2 weeks ago. It was crazy.
Yeah.
But anyways, I mean, I know what you're saying. I've never really thought, maybe they shouldn't do that. So.
Somebody in the live chat is like, what helps protect genitals from zippers? Underwear.
Yeah, exactly. Although that's still gonna hurt. Like,
yes, you're not wrong.
I mean, that's still gonna hurt, but that is true.
Yeah.
You were definitely playing with danger more than most.
Correct. You understand. You understand
all
more
your,
now.
And all your command and all your what do you guys call yourselves? Commandos or commanders?
Something like that.
Commanders going commando.
Yeah.
And then I enjoyed the getting to do the give me back that fillet of fish, give me that fish outtake. That's one of my all-time favorite commercials.
Jonathan and I on the same wavelength today, literally just checking off the ones I had written to talk about the sins as well. But
I think Aaron did not
should
make
I do
notes.
a screenshot of my notes here so I can prove it to you?
I feel like that used to happen a lot because I remember you saying, do you take a screenshot? Who was it? Was it that you used to quote, like, was it slab all the time or something? Do you remember?
No. Somebody in the comments or something in the chat?
Yeah, it was something that we did where every time it would come up, they'd be like, "That's it would be like, chat just said that," and you'd be like, "Do you want me to take a screenshot of my note?" I wish I could remember what that was for, but it happened all the time.
Yeah, great minds think alike. But as far as this episode goes, a little bit different than you, I think, Jonathan. I actually liked the Bruce Chutback plot more than the Hellraiser plot. And I think the reason being is because we don't often get to see Summer and Morty kind of be in the same camp. Like they were both like, we got to impress this new guy. Like there was a real camaraderie between their like, okay, let's not blow this, kind of thing that we don't often get to see them in that. So I found that at least a little bit fresh, a little bit interesting. It
was disturbing though to find out that Summer was 100% in high school.
Absolutely. We were talking about that. And yes.
Yep.
Because obviously if they're dealing with the same new guy at school, they're both in high school. So it does. Listen, we've talked about, we don't need to talk about it again, but the sexualization of those two high school characters is if nothing else worth examining, if nothing else. Comedy's comedy. I get it. And also, it's not like any of us are saying teens don't have sex. Like, that's not what we're saying. We're saying the sexualization of those high school teenagers is worth examining. Anyhow.
Well,
some teens don't have sex, and that's okay.
That's true.
Yeah, I want to say, too, I don't feel like it's not just the teens don't have sex. It's, like, how explicit it is. Mm-hmm. Like, the episode where she goes with her grandfather to just literally go fuck until people die. Mm-hmm. Just that kind of casual reference. I don't know. I have opinions about that, but I just feel like,
Yeah.
Wait until you're elderly to go do that.
To go do the space orgies.
Wait till you're in retirement home.
Exactly.
And you have plenty of Jello.
Exactly. Wait for the Jello. Hashtag
and
wait for the Jello.
And plenty of chlamydia shots, so you don't have to worry about that.
Wait until you're around medical care a lot before doing those things.
That makes sense. So, Danae, what about you? What did you think about this episode and some of the sins?
It's always interesting to be completely removed from an episode. We have enough kind of writing shifting happening now where I won't see any part of an episode until we review it here on the show, and that's something that's kind of new for us. So this is one where I went to watch the episode thinking I was going to have something to do with it, and I was like, what are we doing here, Rick and Morty? Again, just what are we doing? I was so confused about the hole in the body. Like, and I know we sent it, which is good, but I thought when I saw it that it was like the front half of the fish on the front and then the back half on the back. And then as the show progresses, you can see through his torso, like Death Becomes Her style in a way. And I just
Good reference, Danae. Good reference.
Thanks. I have seen that movie. But yeah, I didn't know how to feel about this one on a lot of levels. So it's one where I'm like, I'm kind of glad I didn't have to send this one. But yeah, I just thought
the main thing about the cinema, I just like the whole playing around with the pleasure and pain, and that makes that makes me pleasure. I just thought that was funny, the way they kept going back and forth about that. And then, I don't know
too, but I kept thinking, how are they going to send this?
Oh no,
And that's the trick about Rick and Morty is it's so intimidating. Every time I get assigned one, I'm like, oh, gee. And there's a couple coming up too where I wasn't assigned going, how are they going to do this? And then, we find our way through it. But this was definitely, part of it was one of it.
And Aaron wrote the sin about being turned on by Cenobite Beth. I just want to throw that out there. I did not write that. That is an Aaron.
I don't know what you mean by turned on. The narrator's just saying she's a cartoon. I don't understand why that has to relate to sex, but
I don't know.
You guys mentioned some of them. The only there's a couple more that I like our self-referential sins, and there was a couple in this one that I really enjoyed. The lead in on this one was saying, except I don't get pleasure from mocking others because I'm not lame. And then the response to that from the narrator is just this sort of nervous laughter because they're like, oh yeah, we don't get a pleasure from mocking others. Yeah, it was just really funny.
Yeah.
And then the other self-referential one that I enjoyed was the TV Sins motto somehow making its way into the episode being cringe cannot exist in a vacuum. It needs to be observed. And we actually do have that poster up in our walls. So
that's right. Yes. Yeah.
It's a standard issue when you join the team. It's just we send you a little welcome to the Sins packet, and that's part of the thing. You just kind of have a little banner that goes up above wherever you work.
Yep. Which is why we have assigned Danae the rest of the Office episodes to write solo.
Yeah. We sin because we care.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right, we can move on to the latest Loki. We are at episode 4 of the Loki series, the Nexus event. This was myself and Daniel writing on this one. Did Daniel have any thoughts about this episode or some of his favorite sins?
Daniel says, my thoughts on this episode are pretty much the same as my overall impression of the season as a whole. I felt it was enjoyable to watch, but lacks the kind of energy I was hoping to get from a show centered around Loki. There are interesting surprises, but nothing that left me craving more. The Timekeeper reveal felt flat because they had been teasing for a while that things were not exactly as they appeared to be. My interest peaked when they pruned Loki, but that was quickly reversed. In writing, this sin came together in a fun and interesting way, and the sin was... why does this not resonate with Mobius? He may believe that Loki is not entirely lying, but I feel like the show has spent a lot of time establishing so much distrust between these two characters that their friendship at this stage is very unlikely. Then the sin kind of evolves from there and describes the type of friendship that you can see playing out and being interesting, which is a take on, what was the movie?
Lethal Weapon.
Lethal Weapon, yes. So Daniel kind of goes more into the behind the sins of that and says, I wanted to highlight how the friendship felt rushed. but they also have a fun buddy cop vibe going on, which immediately made me think of Riggs and Murtaugh from Lethal Weapon. The original idea was to have the narrator ramble on with oddly specific requirements regarding what it takes to create a believable friendship, and then at the end, he was going to say something along the lines of, "Oh crap, that's just Lethal Weapon." But during the Combine, Aaron cleaned up the dialogue, and Danae came up with the magnificent idea of using Mobius and Loki's head cutouts to show the activity that was being described. It really took off from there. And then Caitlin, which is one of the editors, did an amazing job editing the clip, and it became much more than I ever envisioned. And I cried a little the first time I saw it.
Aww.
That's so
amazing.
cool.
That was my favorite part
Was it?
Yeah.
of the video. Yeah.
It's so funny because I haven't seen the movie. So I lacked a lot of the references, which is one of the reasons why I was like, should we do something visual, for those of us who maybe haven't seen it or I genuinely didn't understand the reference at all. I thought this is a really interesting, like long explanation story, but what does it mean? And then they're like, oh, it's from a movie. And so that's kind of where it's like, well, should we be more on the nose with it and just put their heads on these moments?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously there's always going to be people that'll get something, but I think that's a popular enough movie, and especially the tropes are well known, and
I mean, just right over my head.
do you remember us talking about that movie on this show like a few months ago because we send it?
Nope. Nope.
Danae only exists in the now.
He goes on to say a sin shout out. He says, I was super jealous of this one. Sick, twisted, aren't we supposed to love ourselves? People spend millions of dollars searching for this kind of therapeutic breakthrough. Get bent, Mobius, but only in a way that turns and reconnects it to itself, so it ends up with only one true side and a single boundary curve. Science jokes! This is one of my favorites too. He says, I was super jealous of this one. I had been trying to come up with a Mobius strip sin, but I had nothing, and this one was just perfect. And that's what he wrote about Loki.
Yeah, the science jokes thing was funny to me because I didn't get the joke.
I know.
I did laugh.
Well, it was one of those situations where I felt like the joke could have ended with the Mobius strip kind of thing, but I felt like there would be enough people who wouldn't get it that it would be fun to add just that little tag so they knew it was something related to, Mobius and science and that kind of thing. So
Gotcha.
But it seemed to work. I enjoyed it.
No, it worked.
Yeah, it was really great. I laughed at that one.
Science jokes.
And that's something this narrator has continued to do in a couple other scripts, maybe at least one, where it's like, such and such jokes, just kind of that tag or whatever. So that's kind of a fun thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I had that one. I also had, let's see. Well, I guess I should say what I felt about the show first. This is where it really started to get me back. I mentioned I had a little bit of lull in episode 3. In episode 4, I really started to fall in love with the stuff they were doing with the relationship that Loki was having to himself. So, for instance, that therapy sin that was already mentioned really comes from this idea that, what is going on here is a real self-exploration that none of us get to do because we don't get to exist with other versions of ourselves, right? So, there's this real interesting thing the show is doing with learning how to love yourself, learning how to accept your flaws, who you are. Like, there's just a lot of that interesting stuff, and it really starts to pick up steam here. It also zooms us at the end into some really new places that we haven't been yet. And you could argue, in fact, too quickly. It would have been nice to maybe, especially the pruning that happens back to back almost between Mobius and Loki. You could argue that they needed to do that to Loki in the next episode so that we could live with the Mobius pruning a little bit more in before we immediately got Loki pruning and going, okay, well, it must not be that big of a deal. So yeah, it was this is an interesting episode for me. As far as sins that I liked, I did like the ones that were mentioned. Also the why aren't you exploring? Walk around, look for flaws. You're a Loki for Odin's sake. And then being able to reference Myst and Riven, which are two of my favorite puzzle games. I just think it's so true. Like, Loki wouldn't just stand there and take it. Like, he would be, searching for, the boundaries of the area, like how it works. And he just stands there and gets kicked in the jubblies a few times. So like, he'd be doing other things.
Like running.
Yeah,
running away.
Anything. So yeah, I enjoyed that one as well. This was a really fun one to write on. Jonathan, what about you?
I mean, I agree with what Daniel said about the problems with this episode. So I think he said that pretty nicely, much better than I could. I would have just said it sucked, but and then as far as the sins, I mean, the whole Lady Sif is a dick to Loki routine was very funny.
Yeah.
And then he mentioned the lethal weapon stuff. That had me dying, and the science joke sin was great. The only other one I had written down was, according to the show, what makes a Loki is the British accent. Lokis can be anything as long as they sound like they're from London. I thought it was very funny.
Yeah.
This episode for me was, another kind of interesting one, again, where I'm trying to kind of get into the show and figure out what it all means and where it's going. And I still don't know that I was fully engaged at this point in time. So I don't know. I think overall, the reveal kind of at the end, I agree was lackluster. I remember whenever I saw them on the screen, I was like, oh, this is going to be fun to just sin the shit out of these timekeepers. And then they were like these animatronic, something from It's a Small World After All. Which was purposeful, and that's what I didn't like about them. It's like, this just feels so like puppetry, and then it was puppetry. So then I was immediately disappointed. I'm like, oh, well, we can't send that because it was on purpose. But to kind of, there's something about this show, and I've not wanted to say it because there's something about this show that it's almost bigger than it is, than it should be. And I've been trying to kind of put into words what I mean by that, but the fight scenes, and it almost is just so over the top compared to the story itself, which is like a more kind of slow paced feel story. So even the fight scenes just feel to me like it's all overdone. The way that the last episode ended that we send, where they're like running through this end scene, and then, like the 10 minutes of nothing happening at the end. It just all feels like the show feels like it's bigger than it actually is. And I think that's what Daniel means when he says he kind of expected more action, more, I don't know. I just, at this point in the show, I'm still like, I'm not comfortable with what I'm watching yet. I'm not there yet. So I really enjoyed the sins. Like, if I had paid more attention to physics, I could explain why these two massive celestial objects so close together should be wreaking more havoc than this calm scene would suggest. Like, there's just these things happening. It just doesn't feel right. There's something that's just off about the show for me. I love that sin, by the way, that they're on this planet that's supposed to be, exploding at any moment. And then it ends with just like, why is this lake so calm? The Lady Sif is a dick to Loki. That whole series of dick jokes and was brilliant, and I loved that. I loved listening to Aaron, your delivery of how or wow or like that was just really fun. And the sin that ends in the world just child with the kid that just takes a temp pad and magically makes it work. I thought that was really well done as well. So
yeah,
good job.
There you go. That is Loki, the Nexus event. That moves us into music video sins. Lorde with a new video out. Solar Power. Did Barrett have any thoughts on Solar Power?
He sure, dude. He says, Lorde is a national treasure, even though she's not from our nation. She has amazing perspective for an artist that became incredibly famous around 16. She and Billie Eilish look like they've fared better, though, through that process than many unfortunate cases, male and female, and have come before them. Anyway, the song was introduced to me by Jeremy, and I kind of hated it at first. And then one day, the hook at the end clicked with me, and I was singing it in my house while running around in my swimsuit like Lorde does. I think the video is unintentionally hilarious, what with the pagan weirdness, the hippie imagery that's all over the place, and the fact that no one smiles during the entire thing is strange. It's overall fine, I guess. And I will likely become somewhat a classic. I can't read. It will likely become somewhat of a classic. I don't know why. I just have that feeling, but I don't think it has a lot to say. My favorite sin was the one about the flimsy ass tarp.
Danae, why don't you go into your thoughts?
I hate the song.
Really? What do you hate about it?
I like Lorde a lot. I just I'm just like, get away from me. Stop making that noise. I don't know. It just didn't feel like there was much to it. I didn't feel like it wasn't the Lorde that I fell in love with. And you know what? Sometimes musicians just do things that are different than that first song you hear, and that's okay. I don't expect musicians to never, you can't keep doing the same thing over and over again. I respect that. But there was something about the first time I heard Lorde was, I read an obscure blog, and someone said, there was like someone who said, if you like that, you might like Lorde. She's like, no one even knows about her. And I clicked on it and went to SoundCloud, and it was Royals, I believe. And I was like, this is going to blow up. And it was before it did. And there was just something about the way that it was put together, and something about the way that she delivered it that just felt different than this. This feels like one of those summer hits that you make just to make a song, and I loathe this song.
There you go. Tell it like it is.
But I did enjoy this group is so granola. I can smell patchouli through the screens and quite a lot.
Yeah. I didn't hate the song. I don't love it either. It would probably have to grow on me quite a bit. I find the lyrics a little abstract and vaguely sexual, and I'm not exactly sure what she's going for. You know, with the ideas that she's presenting, it's very poetic. You know, but the thing about like a song like Royals is like I felt like I understood like the vibe and what was, even those lyrics are also poetic. There's a real sense of like eat the rich, class warfare. Like there's you can really understand what's going on. And maybe I just need more time with this to really figure out what the solar power thing is in reference to. It seems like self-actualization in some ways, but it also seems a bit apathetic. So I'm just not sure how to like justify those things. Sin-wise, passing the tusk made me laugh quite a bit. And then the we'll always have Royals, where the sin is about, you know, it being a good run. But it's time to return Lorde to the sea from whence she came.
Yeah, so
and then
funny.
The narrator kind of breaks up a little bit. It says, we'll always have Royals.
Oh, and that outtake was fun too.
Oh, that outtake, yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Step back up. Now back down. Step back up.
Yeah. I don't even know what that's from, but that was great.
Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Sure was.
That's Paul Rudd.
Oh, I see. Oh, I see.
2 quotes we've already said from Forgetting Sarah Marshall on this episode already, because it isn't the London quote from
yes
from Forgetting Sarah Marshall as
That's
well?
also Paul Rudd.
That is also Paul Rudd. Jonathan, your thoughts on this song and the video?
Oh, I'm on Team Danae. This song's terrible.
You are? Okay. I kind of felt weird saying it.
No, I think this song's terrible. And I haven't listened to a lot of Lorde. I mean, obviously I know Royals, and Royals is a really cool song, but I don't know that I know much else by her, honestly.
Is it possible we'll look back at her as like a one-hit wonder?
Yeah, it's possible.
Like, did she have like another big hit other than Royals?
I was thinking she did.
There was a couple songs that came out at the same time.
And I think this one's doing fine.
Well,
I mean,
it's doing fine in the moment, but then like 10 years from now, like, will anybody remember anything other than, you know, Royals? Like, I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah,
That's
maybe.
not a diss either. There are a lot of great one-hit wonders. Like, it's fine.
And I feel like...
it's one more hit than I've ever written. So
yeah, exactly. I feel like sometimes you have a writing partner, or you have someone that you work in conjunction with, that something comes from it that's really, really amazing, you know? And then you have other projects that just don't involve those same people. And I'm wondering too if that was kind of part of what made Royals so special, is that she had some creative partners that helped to bring that together. Whereas this song just feels like, I don't know, it feels like when you make it and you have a name that people recognize, and then you can just put something out that is just words. God, I hate this song so much. It's so hard for me to say that too, but I just was like, the first time I heard it, because I was like, oh, a new song from Lorde, okay, and I clicked on it and I was just like, no.
Well, then maybe expectations play a little bit into your loathing as well.
Yeah.
Like, you
I was
want
gonna
so much
say,
more.
If this was like track 5 that never, was, or it was like the 3rd or 4th single or something, maybe you have a different, but I still don't think I'd like it, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
As far as the sins, you guys mentioned a couple of them, but I did like they were all like lined up on the beach or whatever, and it was, oh cool, we're just in time for the midday pagan ritual. I hear they're planning on doing a ritual sacrifice of Lana Del Rey next Tuesday. And then her, I can't remember what it is she says right at the very end. She says solar power, right? Is that what she says? And it's like, wherever the hell that evil voice came from. I thought it was really funny.
Yeah, it was such a weird delivery.
Yeah.
It's weird. It made me uncomfortable in not the good ways.
Yes. Yeah. The narrator as well, obviously.
Yep.
I think we can move on to CinemaSins. Under Siege has been sinned. Ian and Daniel. We got a newbie script. Barrett in on this one as well. Yep. Who did all of them have something to say? Are you going to be reading for a while? Tell us what they had to say about this one.
I'll start with Barrett since I still have the screen up from him. He says, I'd seen Under Siege exactly 47.2 years ago before I sent it. And I was expecting it to be bargain basement bad, like many Seagal movies. But because you have an interesting, albeit way over the top, villain in Tommy Lee Jones, and the movie is smart enough to focus more on him than Seagal, I think it makes it watchable, even enjoyable, maybe a nice action movie. One thing that interested me about this movie is how many of the bit players also show up in Andrew Davis's classic from the following year, The Fugitive. Not only Tommy Lee, but one of his crew is featured in one of the escaped cons. One of the sailors is a detective, and the private that guards Seagal is Tommy Lee's protege in Fugitive. One thing I'll note is this was an absolute pleasure to write with a new crew, Daniel and Ian. Everyone had absurdly funny stuff, and it was a joy to work on this script.
Nice.
Daniel says, I saw this movie many years ago as a child due to the lack of parental controls on premium cable at the time.
Nice.
I remembered thinking it was an exciting action flick, and the whole thing taking place on a battleship was really cool. Upon rewatching, I can confirm it is an action movie, and it takes place on a boat.
That's great.
The best part of the movie is just how insane the performances by Tommy Lee Jones and Gary Busey are. Writing. So one interesting part about writing on the script was reading about the USS Missouri. Along with the general history of the boat's service from World War II to the Gulf War, I learned that the USS Missouri had at least two sizes of guns, 5-inch and 16-inch, a fact that the characters in the movie seemed to be confused about, and that yielded the following sin, which was, so they still have ammo for the 16-inch guns, but not the 5-inch guns. If that was the case, why the fuck did they spend any time talking about the 5-inch guns? Sin shout out was Ian did a great job with this one. And the sin was, look, by all accounts, Ryback is exactly the patriot any country's attack force should be pleased to have. Okay, he's not above the law, but by all accounts,
this is one of my favorites.
The man has clearly been marked for death while on dangerous ground on multiple occasions and has reacted with maximum conviction, remaining hard to kill and relying on his code of honor to ensure victory is always out of reach of America's great enemies. And you know
so
what?
Good.
All it would take is an executive decision to give this mercenary absolution.
It's so great because not only does he get everything in there, like everything makes sense. Like the whole paragraph works. It's really well done.
Daniel says to that he was super impressed by the way he weaved in all of the movie's titles into that sin. And
there is a Seagal movie called Absolution. I looked it up. I was like, that's
there you go.
That's crazy. So Ian says, for some reason, I watched this film at least once a year growing up. I sometimes wonder if my dad was deliberately trying to make sure I had terrible taste in movies. It was an interesting experience to sin a film that, for my sins, I grew up with, and therefore I had a lot of familiarity. This is a bad movie. Steven Seagal is a bad actor. This makes it easy for TLJ to steal the show, but he still turns in a bonkers performance that I really enjoy. The fundamental problem with this movie is the elaborate ass Bouillabaisse Fleming? Thanks, Ian. Weapon stealing plan. I'm no expert, but there has to be an easier way to steal nuclear weapons than throwing a fake birthday party for your captain so you can sneak in a damned helicopter full of mercenaries weapons and Miles O'Brien from TNG onto the boat just so that you can shoot said captain in his office and imprison the crew. God, this movie should be stricken from movie history just based on Gary Busey's offensive ass dress up scene. But hey, this movie has a genuine Playboy model in it, so all is well. Boobies. He says also, I have to give a shout out to my Steven Seagal movie montage tribute. Like Jean-Claude Van Damme and Nicolas Cage, Seagal has some of the most generic ass movie titles on record. So generic that it was easy to turn them into not just a sentence, but a fucking paragraph. Sometimes with these type of sins, you feel like you're stretching the joke, but this one felt very natural, and I think it flowed really well. And I'm excited to see if anyone can beat 11 movie references in one sin.
Gauntlet thrown.
I know. I was just thinking that.
Ian said a lot of things that were wrong in that summary, but the worst thing he did was say Miles O'Brien from TNG. That man deserves to be Miles O'Brien from Deep Space Nine. Thank you very much.
Whoa. Okay.
Whoa, gauntlets. Oh, so much. Okay.
Ian and I are going to have words.
I'm excited for that conversation. He finishes up by saying, the sin, if needed, look, by all accounts, Ryback is exactly the patriot. Oh, okay. He actually referenced sin. Okay. He finishes up here. Oh, here it is. Also, yes, and also in an email format, Daniel's I'll be Ryback and movie has time for Commander Krill to not have time for this. We're freaking genius and hilarious. So good.
Yep. I agree.
I love that one. The movie has time for Commander Krill to not have time for this. That was such a nice turn.
Mm-hmm. That was a great one.
Yeah. Yep. Jonathan, sounds like you've got some things to say about Under Siege. Why don't you say them?
Oh, no. It's funny, though. I feel like, people always say I'm the one defending horror movies. I feel like I have to defend action movies more than anything on this freaking podcast. This is a really good movie. I have no idea. I don't know. This is a really good movie. And what's weird is this is a really smart movie. I think the main reason, though, it is because of Andrew Davis. I think Andrew Davis is a really good director. He actually he directed Seagal's first movie, Above the Law, a few years before this, and has a lot to do with Seagal even becoming a star at all. And then, Seagal did like 4 movies before this. I think he did Above the Law, Hard to Kill, Out for Justice, and Marked for Death. And those were all like modest hits and all okay in their own right. But this movie like made him a star, like a movie star. And then he royally screwed that up pretty quickly after this. But I think Andrew Davis has everything to do with that. I think Andrew Davis knows how to use actors in a way that I think he knows how to find the strengths in a lot of these guys. I mean, he made a movie in the mid 80s called oh my God, all of a sudden I can't think of what that movie's called.
How dare you? How dare you?
It's a Chuck Norris movie. It's
Danae and I both know. We're just not telling you so we can watch you squirm.
Yeah, it's an important part of our show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where
you have
we
to
just
grow. You have to grow as a person, Jonathan.
Yeah, Code of Silence.
Yeah, that's it.
Which is pretty easily Chuck Norris's best movie. Some people would argue it's Chuck Norris's only good movie. And that too, I just think Andrew Davis is a really good action director, and I think he does a lot of smart things with this movie. I think he uses Seagal in the right way. I think Tommy Lee Jones, without this movie, I don't know that we get Tommy Lee Jones in The Fugitive, which would be a disgrace, right? Because, that ends up being one of the most memorable characters ever. Now, he did work with Tommy Lee Jones on a movie a couple years before this called The Package, which is a really underrated movie with
I knew that too.
Tommy Lee Jones and Gene Hackman.
Super dope.
But and then Gary Busey is just insanity on a platter, like he should be. I don't know. I think this movie's good, especially when you think about the Die Hard on a blank movies. I think this is pretty easily one of the better ones.
Yeah.
So I think this is an interesting movie. I think also it probably kicks off kind of what the 90s action movies become. For some people, that might be a bad thing. I don't know. But I think this is, I don't know. I think this is a good movie. So maybe I'm alone.
Yeah, you might be.
Oh, in my sins. I mean, it made a shit ton of money. Somebody liked it.
True. Somebody liked it.
So my sins, I did love when the captain is talking to Gary Busey, and it says, tonight the role of Vladimir Putin will be played by Patrick O'Neill. Gary Busey will be playing the United States. We are sorry for any inconvenience. I like bitching about your boss after killing him. It really should just be one or the other. I thought that was hilarious.
That is funny.
And then I love when Krill says, the Gary Busey character says, you have done a good job at this point, but you are now relieved of duty. And then the sin is, this is the politest threat at gunpoint in the history of hostile takeovers. Maybe Krill has taken that performance review to heart after all.
Yeah.
And then, and I loved them sending the kiss at the end, because that is weird as hell. Because the whole movie, I mean, Seagal and Erica Laniak, who actually is quite good in this, even though she's got kind of at least early on, kind of a weird, thankless role. You don't even understand why she's there, which is also a good sin. But I love that they send that him and Seagal and her kiss, because they do have kind of like a brother-sister, father-daughter relationship throughout like the entire movie. And then randomly at the last second, he just kisses her, and it's like, oh. So
yeah,
that was fun for me.
Yeah, good stuff. I have not seen Under Siege recently enough to back you up, Jonathan, but I do remember thinking it was a fairly decent action movie back in the day when I saw it. I wonder if a lot of this is, not a lot of it, maybe a little of it is generational. That there are some things that make something a bad movie for a generation that didn't live through 80s action movies and learn, like why those are enjoyable, how they're enjoyable. So when, somebody sees those kind of things, it could be, okay, that hasn't aged well. This part is, because that dressing up and drag thing, it stands out like a sore thumb now. Right, yeah.
I'm not saying this is perfect by any means.
No, I understand that. But what I'm saying is, so I think there are even like acting styles change through the years, right? And so if you're not tuned into a certain type of acting style, it can seem like it's just bad.
We didn't quite know Seagal was a big piece of shit either at that point.
Right.
So, I mean, that probably doesn't help the movie, the fact that Steven Seagal is, and Andrew Davis did not become like a household name as a director, even after doing The Fugitive. So I think Seagal hurts this movie quite a bit.
Yeah.
Seagal the person.
Right, correct. So you see things like that, the fact that the female, character is there to be exploited and not really used well, and like you add all that stuff together and you go, okay, that's a bad movie. But for someone like us who, has certain things we appreciate about action, you can look at it from a different perspective and a different angle and go, here's what I love about this, which I think is part of the beauty of film, and, the beauty of revisiting film and understanding it.
And I would argue, like I said, I think Erica Laniak's actually quite good in this. And once they get past that whole cake part, which, that's a job her character takes. I mean, it's not like, I don't know. Her and Seagal have a pretty fun back and forth kind of thing going on, but then they make it weird by having them kiss at the end. But yeah, no, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, totally. So I just wonder if that's part of it. As far as like sins go, the idea, I loved the part where, here's what the sin is. The movie expects us to believe that strict naval protocol can be overruled because of, wait, what's this guy's name? Seriously? And then he just says, because of Seaman Johnson's boner? That slayed me. That the narrator would be just like taken aback by how well the name works with the sin that he's giving. I loved the running gag of like, what in the name of Poseidon's perineum? Like the idea that the narrator kept finding different, like, I forget all the difference, but different like gods and different body parts. I really appreciated like the alliteration and the wordplay on some of those. It is likely the only time you will ever hear the phrase Poseidon's perineum in your life. And I loved that. All these bird call signs, and nobody was brave enough to use seagull. That was beautiful. And then the one sin after clearly it was a dude that wrote this. The sin was just male screenwriters writing for women. It's just beautiful.
Oh yeah. The line was Steven Seagal said, "Aren't you down with women's lib?" And she said something like, "Only when it helps me," or something like that. I can't remember.
Yeah. And it's just perfect.
When it works in my advantage or something. Yeah. That's totally a male screenwriter.
And then the I'll be right back. Had to mention that as well, even though it's already been mentioned. Loved that too. Danae, what about you?
I don't know this movie. I don't want to know this movie, but here's some sins I enjoyed. Now I know why you're a cook. You hit like, and then it just gives 100 sins for us being able to extrapolate where it goes from there.
Right.
You follow Krill's orders as the lead-in. You're gonna go to the brakeman, use your head, go get my pies out of the oven, And the sin is, movie makes me care more about these pies than I do about anything else in the story.
I had that down too.
Hell, I say keep the plot, but move the whole thing to a French bakery and make the villain that food critic from Ratatouille.
Yes.
It's just fun stuff. The lead-in is 4 minutes ahead of schedule. Damn, I'm good. And then the sin response is, you could have been 40 minutes ahead of schedule, asshat. Instead, you've been stage mouth fucking a harmonica. It's just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And then there's like this moment, I guess, that they put her into a locker. And so he's, the Seagal is saying to her, like, believe me, this is the safest place that you could possibly be. And then like kind of shoves her in a locker and like she's trapped in this locker in a ship. And the sin just points out that Ryback forces Jordan into the locker instead of just saying, wait here and hide in the locker if you hear anyone coming. Like, which, women being treated like women in action movies, just women, like we are often just, you know, like literally grabbed and moved into position. And I fucking hate that stuff.
She kicks a lot of ass later though.
Oh, does she?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Well then. That's cool.
She saves his life. In fact, she shoots. Spoiler alert: Chief Miles O'Brien from fucking TNG.
Oh man, the spice, the heat.
No, it's fine. He was on TNG first, but he should be more known for Deep Space Nine now. But you know, whatever.
What are you?
Hey, real quick, since I don't know if we'll ever send it, Under Siege 2: Dark Territory, which came out like 3 years after this, also quite good. One of my all-time favorite bad guy teams. They just took a bunch of like great character actors that played villains. I don't know why more action movies don't do this. In fact, they took like 5 or 6 character actors that played a lot of villains at that time and just put them in the movie together to go up against Seagal. And also early, what's her name from Grey's Anatomy who pissed off everybody?
Oh yeah, that
Katherine
one.
Heigl.
Yep.
Early young Katherine Heigl plays his niece. I think it's his niece.
Interesting. I've never seen that one.
It's a lot of fun.
I'm sure it is. You know what else is a lot of fun? The Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs movies. We sinned Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2. That was a Jeremy and me script. That was our team. We did the first one too. I think Jeremy and I sinned the first one together as well. So yeah, revisiting the Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs movie. What did Jeremy have to say about this one?
He says, I think the best thing I can say about Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2 is that it made me want to fuck an onion.
That was my favorite sin. Just the adoration, just the
pure onion lust.
Oh my God. It was insane.
He then goes on to say my favorite sins by saying my favorite sin I wrote was the one about wanting to fuck the onions. He says, I didn't do any research for that one. And then in parentheses, he finishes up, I would write more, but I'm positive Dice will cover all of this just fine. The movie is repeating the first film, only with even worse food puns, and it has some surprisingly gross or horrific moments. It's every bit as bland as the first one was fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that last sentence is a great way to say it. I actually really enjoyed Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2 the first time I saw it. Watching it with a sin lens on, I became very aware very quickly of how lazy this sequel is. And that's unfortunate because the first one was so fresh and interesting and fun. And this one just takes everything about the first one and tries to do it again and maybe put a little bit of spin on it. And yeah, it's unfortunate because it does this thing that animated sequels do that I hate, which is it's like, oh, we've got to use all the exact same characters, even though they came into the first story in their own unique and fresh way. Maybe we'll add 2 or 3, new characters, but everyone from the first one has to be back. And because people liked it, and those moments that people liked in the first one have to happen here. Ice Age is the worst at this. It just keeps adding characters and using all the same characters, and it's just.
Oh my God! I saw the trailer for Seeing 2, which I guess is coming out this fall.
Yeah.
That looks like the exact same thing. Like it's just.
I get it. People like the characters from the first movie, but how about you use the universe and use like a couple primary characters and then introduce a whole new group of,
How about you make the movie Aaron wants to see?
That's
How about
right.
you do that?
Listen, at the end of the
studios?
day, call me, please. Some of the sins I like, obviously the onion one was very, very funny. In case you confuse it with a new flavor of Mountain Dew, really liked that one in relation to, I forget what the exact words were, but for the city, but it sounded so much like a strange flavor of Mountain Dew. The caffeine stations every 5 miles, and then the sin just sounds like Earth. I really liked that one. This joke was funny in the first movie is probably, the biggest sin of this movie is how many jokes it just remakes that the first movie made. So I wanted to mention that because that ends with was probably the working title for this film. And then the Tower of Babish pun where all the foodimals can all of a sudden talk to each other. It was like the Tower of Babel, but for food. Tower of Babish. Like that one as well. What about you guys? Danae, why don't you start?
Okay, I will start. I've not seen this movie before, so but it looks like I just don't need to. I do think the animation looks very interesting, and I love the vibrancy of the colors. And I think it would be fun to see foods coming to life for a kid. So I can see why they'd want to repeat it. But of course, you kind of wish that they would get a little bit more clever or what have you. So, but I think if you have a fun world that you build, to want to go back and visit it is just a normal thing. So, I guess sometimes you just can't expect a lot from specific franchises. I really like this another film by a lot of people. I thought that was kind of adorable. The sin being like, here's a line that takes the place of the credits and is a genius idea, but then they actually do 5 minutes of credits at the end. So
yeah, if you're going to say here's a film by a lot of people, then you don't need to run the credits at the end, right? Like you already took care of it.
I would want my name on a credit if I was involved in a movie. I'm just saying. After he tastes the frosting, and the sin is tasting brown stuff you find on your child's body. That made my skin crawl, having a child. And that's just...
I've seen this happen in real life.
My God.
I've seen my father-in-law taste test substances on an infant. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
See,
I won't.
No.
He thought it
I
was
won't
chocolate pudding.
Oh
won't even-
my God.
Yeah.
I won't even eat after my kid. There's no way I'm picking something off her body and making sure.
No, happy ending. It was chocolate pudding. But I was just like, nope, you don't taste test that.
No, you sniff test it first.
Yes.
Use your nose, lift whatever body part to your face, smell it, and then proceed. Continue with caution.
I just feel like you can tell the difference between chocolate pudding and poo, but maybe I'm wrong. I
Hey,
don't know.
but if you're wrong, you're
wrong
in a very bad way.
so bad.
And why
Oh,
would you want to?
God.
No, it's gross. It's all that's gross.
Anyway.
Why would you want to eat chocolate pudding off of your,
That's what I'm saying. I wouldn't even share a cup of chocolate pudding with my kids. I'm not eating after her. She's gross. She's a kid.
Yeah. I mean, I have a situation where I have a very, very sensitive skin. And so if Iris just touches my skin, I have a breakout there because of her little grubby hands. And we wash them regularly, but God knows where. Like the other day.
Yeah, kids, man.
I mean, she's just touching things and it's just good. Just don't touch my face. We'll sit on the couch and she'll say she really wants me to watch this part of a show. She'll reach up and she'll grab my face and she'll turn my chin and she'll say, watch this and don't look away until I tell you. And I'm just like, stop touching my face. I love you. Don't touch my face.
Yes.
I'm probably creating some sort of weird thing with her
people-
about it.
People are probably gonna take it the wrong way. My daughter does like bathe and stuff. Like she's not like gross in that way. I'm just saying, kids in general kind of gross. That's all I'm saying. Like they get their hands into things and they don't automatically go watch.
could even
and
say-
they mix foods. And
We could even say humans in general. Pretty gross.
yeah, that's true.
Pretty gross.
I love that the whole like we've got to say whether or not we bathe ourselves and our kids. That's become like a thing
celebrity
that
thing,
articles are getting written on. Is so I'm more and more.
Mind your own business, people.
I'm sadder every day about our world.
Yeah.
The other one I liked was the boat leaking and then the VeggieTales reference. Like movie accidentally goes full VeggieTales and you never go full VeggieTales.
Yeah,
that was just
good.
The question of our friends better than inventions. Like, look, I love you, Josh, but I'm trading you for, was it penicillin every day of the week, buddy? I loved that. It was just kind of fun. and then the dumbest heroes ever reference. I enjoy when you break down the construction of something, and so there's this big thing at the very end, I guess, of the sin is, in order to save his captive friends, Flint and the Foodimals spend what I'm assuming is about 6 days planning, wielding, and constructing a boat with a giant fishing rod. And these are the dumbest heroes ever. I just trying to sin a cartoon that just creates something out of nothing is always difficult, but I thought that was well done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen both of these, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, a handful of times because my my gross daughter, she was a fan. My beautiful sweet little girl, she was a fan of these when she was a little younger. I haven't seen them in a while though, so they're kind of like they're kind of interchangeable to me in my head. But I do think I recalled this one wasn't nearly as fun as the first one, probably for all the same reasons Aaron said, because that is a very, very common thing. Rio 2 is another great example of that.
It's all these animated movies; they all do the same thing. It's crazy.
But yeah, so that was really funny. So that was I'm saying this was a really funny video to me. I just liked adding the 3%. I don't know if we've already mentioned that. I'm sorry if we have, but
That was so good.
Yeah. And then I guess you did calculate that. Or
Yeah,
somebody
the comments.
did.
If you go through the comments, there are a few people that are like, well, by deduction, I can say the first movie got 128 sins. Like, yep, you're right. I actually did the math. You are correct. Yeah.
Nice. And then, yeah, you guys already mentioned the penicillin thing. I did like from the line in the movie, I don't get vests. Is it winter on your torso and summer on your arms? And then the sin is Tim Lockwood would be excellent at stealing Dimitri Martin jokes to excel at vest sins. I just like the complexity of that, would be excellent at CinemaSins. And then thankfully this car floats. I thought was really well done. And then obviously Jeremy getting turned on by sentient scallions
Ridiculous.
had me dying.
It was great.
I had tears coming out of my eyes.
My contribution to that sin was I told him to call them the Wild Scallions in honor of Bill and Ted. There you go.
God, by the way, we didn't mention that when we did, because we're not talking about the outtakes as much anymore since they're separate. But that Tron outtake from a couple weeks ago when it was the 69 dudes.
So perfect,
and then
right?
David Warner goes, nice. Oh my God.
Well, it's so great because he asked the question.
Yeah.
He was like,
Yeah.
what thing are they from? And then just number 69 dudes. And he goes, nice. So perfect. Anyways, no, you're right.
Awesome.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
I love when stuff works out like that.
So good. All right, that'll wrap it up. Let's move on to keeping tabs.
The internet is a communications tool used the world over where people can come together to bitch about movies and share pornography with one another.
Oh, jeez.
This is the most public yet of my many humiliations.
We're each going to talk about something from the process of putting the content together for the week. Mine was already kind of talked about, so I'll just kind of brush over it a little bit. But I wanted to mention the lethal weapon thing because it was one of those behind-the-scenes things that really kind of progressed through conversation and even kind of edging into argument maybe a little bit. I don't know if you remember it that way, Danae, but it was like you were very certain that it needed, something more, to kind of hit the joke home, that kind of thing. And I think Daniel and I were like, no, it kind of works as is, but I'm really glad you pushed on that because I think it does make the joke better, to have those, faces on there and to go that extra mile and do that extra effort. And of course, the editors.
I'm just saying not everybody has seen that movie, okay?
Correct.
I got to say, though, I misunderstood you earlier. I thought you were saying even with the faces on there. That's what I was referring to. I was like, I think enough people have seen it to where they would get it if they were seeing it the way you guys showed it.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Danae maybe still not. She may have still had to try to figure it out. And there will always.
Oh, no. I understand. Some people, not everybody's going to get a joke. I get that, but I think you guys presented it in a good way.
And this is what I was going to say along that process, finding that balance and finding that, like, when is it too obscure? Because we throw some obscure stuff out there knowing that, the starfish jokes. I call them starfish jokes. It's only going to make a difference for one or two people, right? But we're okay with that. But then there are other times where we've invested enough time into it that we kind of want more of the audience to understand what's going on. Because, and this I think was your point, Danae, and please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but your point was we're doing a full paragraph on this. We're spending 5 to 10 seconds on this sin. If somebody doesn't get it at the beginning, they're going to check out for the rest of it or be confused for a longer time. Sometimes you can slip in references that a lot of people won't get, but it's there and gone, and it's okay if they don't get it. In this case, it might be good to really spell it out for the audience. So I appreciated that. I appreciated that conversation. I appreciated you pushing on it.
And I can appreciate, even though a lot of people obviously have seen Lethal Weapon, it was a popular film. It was also a movie from 34 years ago. So I mean, our average age obviously is Stru's younger. So and kind of like Seagal, I'm not sure that people are going out of their way to watch Mel Gibson movies these days. So
right,
I understand that perspective 100%.
Yeah. I also thought it was interesting. The other thing I'll mention about it is that it was interesting because I had thought Falcon and the Winter Soldier was very much had a Lethal Weapon vibe to it, where it was very much buddy cop, kind of getting on each other's nerves. So it's interesting to see that in both places, both recent Marvel shows, different ones of us kind of seeing that same kind of thing. And maybe that's just a fun thing they're liking to do, is to put characters together that are kind of
It's interesting to me too that Lethal Weapon is kind of the stereotype of the buddy cop movie, right? Especially the black officer and the white officer.
Yes.
But there were 30, 40 of those before Lethal Weapon even came out. I mean, is there if you want to go back to Beverly Hills Cop, which was 3 or 4 years before that, Running Scared with Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines. I mean, there was, but Lethal Weapon was the one that everybody, talks about. Yeah. Which is understandable.
What about you, Jonathan? What's your keeping tabs this week?
I only wrote on Rick and Morty, so I didn't really do a ton, although I did, and I didn't really do anything with this, but I knew, like I said, I don't have a lot of Hellraiser knowledge, but I knew that the Cenobites had really weird names at times. I mean, obviously there's Pinhead, which is the main one that everybody, if anybody knows one of the Cenobites names, they probably know Pinhead.
I keep thinking of Cinnabon Mini. Every time you say Cenobites, I'm like, Cenobites.
I know.
Got off my shift.
I know.
I just got off my shift at the Cinnabon. That always makes me. Cinnabon always makes me think of that sketch on SNL, Goth Talk, with Azrael.
Yeah. In Better Call Saul, Cinnabon.
Yeah. So Cenobites, if somebody doesn't know what they are, because like Danae said, not everybody watches these movies. Oddly enough, Hellraiser and Lethal Weapon came out the same year.
Oh,
so
nice.
Interesting. Yeah. But there's been 30 of these Hellraiser movies, so who knows? But anyway, so they've created a lot of these Cenobites, which are these. I don't know what they're really supposed to be. They're Clive Barker made them up. They're I don't know. They're hell demons that come and bring people to hell or something. But they always have these weird body horror designs and stuff, which Rick and Morty was playing into and making fun of and stuff. I don't think they're quite as crazy as they are in Rick and Morty. But anyways, so I looked up Cenobite names. And there's some pretty weird ones. One of them is called, and this is in the movies, one of them is called Butterball, which he's just kind of chubby.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe he slathered a certain region of his anatomy. No. Okay.
One is called Camera Head, and it is exactly how it sounds. Okay. He has a camera for a head.
Got it.
One is called CD. He has a CD disc coming out of his head. Elephant Woman, don't even know how to describe that one.
I'm guessing there's a trunk involved somewhere.
Yeah, there's a Chatterer, and then there's also when they decided to make a female version of Chatterer, the whoever created her was very creative and came up with the name Female Chatterer. So
wow, well done. Well done.
There's a Halo and a Halo 2. Don't know what that's about.
Yes, there is. Both on Xbox.
My favorite though, and I couldn't find a picture of him, but my favorite is Saucy Jack. And
Saucy Jack and Butterball probably get together and create some nice recipes.
There's also Walnut Head, and that's about what you would think it looks like. So yeah, that's an interesting franchise that I'm probably never going to look into again.
Amazing.
No offense to people that love Hellraiser, but
and yet I'm
that's
still
just
hungry.
Not my thing.
Yet I'm still hungry for miniature Cinnabons.
I want a Cinnabon so bad.
Cinnabons are good. We don't really have a lot of them here, but they're at the airport and stuff, so I do get them occasionally.
I know exactly what place sells them between here and Nashville. Because I've made that trip so many times.
There's a bunch of them in if you go to Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg, they're all over that place.
Yeah. Danae, what about you? What you keeping tabs?
I don't have any this week.
Okay. Nothing. Didn't have to do any work. That's always nice.
We'll have words after the show about that.
All right, let's move into the comments section.
I want to know what you're thinking.
I appreciate your honesty. You're a real straight shooter.
You are the ones who are the ball lickers.
What's a comment from any area of the internets or beyond that you wanted to highlight?
The web
for this week.
The webiverse.
Jonathan, why don't you go first? What is your comment for the comment section this week?
Yeah, so Under Siege, I just started looking at the comments for Under Siege. I thought it was interesting. I didn't write a specific one down about this, but there was a sin in Under Siege about how much garlic was on the ship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
People had a lot of stuff to say about that.
Of course they did. Of course
people said,
they
man,
did.
Clearly no one is served on a Navy vessel at CinemaSins. You are correct, I believe. I can't speak for Ian and Daniel, but I believe you are correct. Oh, wait, no, Danae did. I'm sorry, shit.
Yes.
Fuck that up, yeah.
No, did not. I used to work next to a naval recruiting office. Have I ever told you that before?
No.
So
Was it a yoga studio?
No.
I always see yoga studios by recruitment offices in Murph. I don't know if that's just a thing out here. I have no idea.
I thought you meant was the naval recruiting office a yoga studio?
No, like was
I
she
did
working
too.
at a yoga studio? And I didn't mean that mean. That's what I always see by recruitment
My
offices or yoga
stupid brain
studios.
is like, is that a bare midriff joke? Like,
No. I got you.
yoga
I
is
got you.
naval
I got you.
Ah, that's funny. That's funny.
Appreciate you giving me that kind of credit. But
Yeah.
No, I used to work at a pizza place. I was a waitress there for years, and the guys would come over for pizza, obviously, for lunch every so often. And every single month, they have a quota that they're supposed to meet for their recruitment. And every single time that they were low, when they would come over for pizza, they would say, "Hey, Danae, do you want to join the Navy?" And it just became this back and forth thing. Like, I think the first time they were actually serious about it. And so when I laughed in their face and slit the pizza on their table, I think they were a little shocked at my forwardness. And so it led to several deeper conversations about my problem with authority in general. And so one day I sat down at the table with them and I just said, let me just ask this to you seriously. Give me a situation where I'm told to do something. And they're like, okay, you're going to go through all of your physical stuff. You've got to be able to do like 50 push-ups or something. I don't remember the number. And they're like, so do your push-ups. And I was like, no. And they just looked at me like, okay. And then they gave me like 2 or 3 other things. And it was like this thing. And I just said no to everything. And they were laughing at me. They're like, you can't do that. I was like, yeah, that's why I'm not joining the Navy.
I was the first, I think I was the first male on my dad's side of the family not to join the military. So that's a whole other interesting like perspective to have, and how I didn't get ostracized or anything, but I think I was shamed a little bit for a minute. But yeah, I'm kind of like, that's just not my, and I wouldn't have done well anyways. I have like shitty feet and I can't see. And I mean,
it's just,
nobody would have wanted me for very long.
They're like, no, you'd be great. You've got a great, attitude and great personality. I was like, right, that you want to wash away from my brain and make me into a robot person. And I don't know that that's going to be a good fit for me. Also, I want to say no to people that I don't agree with, and I don't think that's allowed. And so as the months would go on, it turned into a total joke and then there was one day I said, okay, guys, I'm ready to join the Navy. And they were like, we don't think you're a good fit. It was so great. So great. Yeah. I don't know.
My wife always says the same thing though. She's like, I'm not good with people telling me what to do. So I don't think that would be a good fit for me.
I have an authority problem, and I have most of my life.
Someone would push you in a locker and you'd be like, no, I'm not doing this.
I would punch them or something, Anyway.
Yeah. So,
so I didn't say my thing. I'm sorry.
So, no, that was my bad.
No, you're good. But anyway, so I thought that was interesting. A lot of people just saying stuff like, no, they would definitely have that much garlic baseline. They trying to count the number of people on the ship and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, whatever. But then Christopher Cooper said, being a culinary specialist in the Navy. Oh, thanks for listening to us, Chris Cooper. That's pretty awesome. I'm sure it's the Chris Cooper.
It is the Chris Cooper.
Of course it is.
Maniacal laugh.
Maniacal laugh.
But Christopher Cooper said, being a culinary specialist in the Navy, I can say that it's pretty accurate that he's worried more about his pies than his life. I thought that was really funny.
Mm-hmm. Very nice. Mine comes from Kathy, and this was in relation to the Loki sin about the only thing that all Lokis have in common is that they sound like they're from London. And first of all, there were many comments from people being like, he didn't sound like he was from London at all. That wasn't a good British accent. And to you, I say, that was an imitation of somebody purposefully doing a bad British accent. And I'm sorry you missed that, but that's okay. And then there was lots of conversation from our English viewers about the fact that Sylvie especially doesn't sound like she's from London. And, and again, the sin is about sounding like you're from England, and that's just a jokey way of saying it. But I get it. I totally understand. But here's the comment. They don't all have London accents. Most Asgardians speak RP, while Sylvie has a northern accent. Now, if you wonder what RP means, that is the standard...
Role play. It means role play. Let me tell you all about it. I've been role playing lately. You can follow me on Twitter. Oh, sorry.
It is the standard English, like the Queen's English. I think it stands for received pronunciation, is what RP stands for.
Received pronunciation.
Yes. That's great. Let's just end the show right there.
Received pronunciation.
Jonathan's English accent is just apparently aged. Anybody that's old sounds English.
Like you pulled that up into your lungs and like,
yeah,
and like
great.
you really got into it.
That was
great.
Beautiful. That was wonderful.
That's like cranky old received pronunciation guy.
The non people can't see what he just did on the podcast are missing out. That was amazing.
It was really great. So anyhow, Sylvie apparently has a northern accent. Seems to me that this was because she was taken as a kid and didn't have the posher accent that was forced on her. Also, it's nice not to have everyone with an American accent. I completely agree. It's just, again, the joke in the sin is the fact that these Lokis can be alligators, but if the alligator speaks, it's going to be with an English accent.
Probably.
Because that is how Lokis work. So anyhow, I thought I'd mention that because I thought that was fun stuff. Danae, what about you?
I wanted to highlight Josh's comments about getting the poster in the mail, mostly because I think it's just a fun kind of a merger of both your excitement for the merch that we sell and getting it. But he also says whoever designed that fucking merch rules. The repeating of talking about the CinemaSins poster, the repeating of the faces in Jonathan's glasses is a wonderful touch. Mm-hmm. They're really high quality posters too. They're really big and they're thick and they're well printed. And so those are available at our merch store. The artist is Chris Barnes, who is also known as Brutal Posters. And he does a lot of like poster recreations. He does a lot of movie posters. He's got a very specific style, and we did a lot of research before choosing him as our artist, and it was an absolute delight working with him. All of us had to send in very particular photos so that he could match and mimic kind of a vibe. So our CinemaSins poster is made after Breaking Bad. Our CinemaSins poster is made after Batman. So each of the three guys has a reference to Batman. Jeremy is wearing
no ego there.
Yeah, Jeremy is wearing a Batman hoodie. Chris, I believe, is holding up a button that is also something that I think Two-Face did. And I think Barrett is doing the same, but with Sincast. So, and then there's a lot of references just kind of to our own branding there that look really, really good. And then the music video Sins poster is off of the very first music video that was done. And I don't remember the reference off the top of my head.
Oh, it's the what is that song called? It's Panic at the Disco.
Panic at the Disco.
It's there.
Yeah.
I Write Tragedies?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it was like a wink and a nod to kind of us writing too. And
because it's the song is like I Write Tragedies and not Sins, or I Write Sins and not Tragedies. So sin is in there.
Yes. God,
I gotta look that up.
You looked that up, and so Barrett did get kind of dressed up to mimic the album
hilarious.
Cover for that. And so we love them. They are, like I said, super, super high quality. And you can use code DING, I believe, for $5 off. And so that's something to consider if you guys want to grab a poster. Josh, glad you got yours in the mail.
Do you know what my favorite...
I Write Sins, not Tragedies. That's what it's called.
Do you know my favorite part of the CinemaSins poster? And this is just a me thing. My favorite part is that we actually used actual elements for the CinemaSins, that we were able to find two actual elements.
The element V23 and SI 14.
I remember we had a conversation about that, right?
Yeah, we were trying to find the right combination and for it to kind of look, because Breaking Bad uses the elements too. It worked out just perfectly.
I kind of wish, I am curious though, because it is funny seeing Aaron with such a serious mug. And I remember after it was made, there was talk that maybe he should have smiled. Like, I don't know, that could have been kind of an interesting, we could have at least seen the difference, you know, but I love it the way it is.
You two are just looking all serious and I've got a goofy grin on my face or something.
That's pretty much every day. I mean, that's kind of how it is, you know, we're all just sitting here like.
Yeah, it was fun to mimic those, and they're my favorite thing that we sell in the store. And I would like to start selling miniature versions, like not postcard versions, not postcard size, but like a little bit bigger. So we're kind of looking into if we have options for selling them. But these are big posters, like 24-inch posters.
Very nice. All right, let's move into Beyond the Sins.
To infinity and beyond.
Somewhere beyond my wild history.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
We're each going to chat about something else from the pop culture world that we've seen recently. And Danae is going to kick us off this time. What have you seen, Danae?
I have only been playing Wild RP. I have no time for anything else in my life. I'm completely consumed by it. Love it. It is my favorite thing.
I mean, she's given up parenting. She's not even doing that. She's just like, nope, no, my dog, my husband can take care of her.
Yes, that's exactly right. Nothing else matters. But I did want to give a shout out because I have had several new Polytopia friends join. So Endless Delirium and Reagan 414, and then there's one that's like a whole bunch of slash marks. I'm just so excited. So I have a total of now 5 actual people that I can set a game up for. And I appreciate that a lot because it's just a ton of fun to play with actual people.
Jonathan, what about you?
I'm actually going to talk about a book that I read that I really liked. It's called Book of Accidents, and it's written by Chuck Wendig. I had only read one other book by him, which was from, I think, like 2010 or something. He wrote this series called the Miriam Black series, and I read the first book in that series. I liked it, but for whatever reason, I never picked up anything else until now. I had read this was getting compared to like classic Stephen King and stuff like that, and I think that's a fair comparison, but I think it's very different, and I think it's which is really interesting because King actually released his new novel about a week after this or before it. But anyways, this is called Book of Accidents. Like I said, it's by Chuck Wendig. He did write a pretty popular novel a couple years ago that I haven't read yet called Wanderers, if you guys think that name sounds familiar to you. But anyways, this book, much like something like, I get why it gets the King reference because, you know, if you just substitute Maine for Pennsylvania, it's like a small rural town in Pennsylvania is where this setting takes place. So that's kind of King-esque. And it's like this family, and then there's some kind of evil presence in the town that's going to do like evil shit to people. And, you know, this family that we're focusing on, there's a young, he's a teenager. I guess he is young. There's a young boy that may or may not be at the root of all this. And what I thought was interesting, though, I was really liking it. But about halfway through, and I can't really say too much about it, but about halfway through, it takes a twist and actually kind of introduces a new genre into the mix, which is where that's why I think the King comparison is okay, but it definitely does its own thing with that type of story. And that's where I really, really started falling in love with it. And then it just continues from that point on. It is so fascinating. It is so fun. I hope to God somebody picks this up and makes it as a movie or a TV show because it is so cool. And I really can't, like I said, I don't want to say anything about it because I don't want to ruin it, but except for the basic setup. But yeah, if any of that sounds interesting to you, you're looking for a new book to read, I highly recommend Book of Accidents by Chuck Wendig.
There you go. Book of Accidents. I'm going to do an older movie that I saw recently called Ordinary People. And this is available for you on Paramount Plus if you have Paramount Plus. This movie floored me. I was not expecting what I had heard about Ordinary. Is it Redford's first directorial? Is it his debut, or had he directed something before this? I can't remember. But Robert Redford directed it, and
I think it was. I don't know.
I had really heard about it is that it shouldn't have won the Oscar. That like there was some controversy about its Oscar wins or whatever. I wasn't expecting a ton, but this movie is so far ahead of its time in dealing with things like therapy, conversational relationships. There is so much incredible like emotional work that these characters are doing. There's some family stuff in here about what it's like to, have parents who, disagree on raising children and how to approach things. There's dealing with loss. There's all this stuff in here feels so authentic and real. I was just kind of blown away. It's an older movie. It's not one I think most people would think of to be like, oh, I've got to see this movie. But I'm telling you, if you want a movie from 40 years ago, right? It was like 1980. Yeah. If you want a movie from 41 years ago that feels like it could have been made today based on kind of how people are talking about mental health and therapy, like check this thing out. It really kind of blew me away. Judd Hirsch plays the therapist in this, and he is so good. And he's dealing with Timothy Hutton as a teenager. And then Mary Tyler Moore and Donald Sutherland play the parents. And man, I loved so much of this, and it's just a high recommend for me as something to go back to, even if you've seen it, because it feels like it could have been written in 2021 in many ways.
Oh yeah, there's a scene where Sutherland and Mary Tyler Moore are having a conversation about the Timothy Hutton character, like in I don't know if they're in a food court or they're in a restaurant or something, and it's just it's fascinating to hear that this was something. I don't know, characters were saying in 1980. Are you talking about the one on
the golf course? I think there was one when they were...
That's it, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just I don't know, them trying to figure what's going on and all that kind of stuff. And it's totally fascinating.
Well, and it nails, like that scene especially nails like the awkwardness of when you have like friends fighting. And it's like, how do you, all of a sudden it becomes a little more public than they probably intend it to be. Mm-hmm. And it just feels so real and authentic. And man, it blew me away, like I said.
Yeah, so. I think over the years it's gotten, and maybe at the time, I mean, I was 4 years old, so I don't remember, but I know that it's gotten a little controversial, and it came back up, especially when Dances with Wolves won, because that meant, like, because Raging Bull was what everybody thought was going to win, and then Scorsese, lost, and I mean, and then in 1990, Scorsese lost to Kevin Costner. And Dances with Wolves, beating Goodfellas. So I think that gets brought up that, he lost to two actors turned directors and stuff like that. I think that's kind of the conversation that gets thrown in. But yeah, I think that's unfortunate that people don't, I don't know. Raging Bull is a great movie too. So I mean, I can be okay with either one of those, but I don't have a problem with this winning though by any means. It's such a great movie.
It won Best Picture, Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Supporting Actor, Best Actress, and Best Supporting Actor. It only missed one of the acting awards. Just an incredible film, and I was really glad I finally checked it out, and would highly recommend other movie lovers do as well. Because man, it's me, I love like the idea of talking through emotion and not being in denial about it, but really like processing this, which is one of the reasons why I'm so pro therapy. And this movie, man, it gets it. And it's huge recommend for me. So yeah, that's Ordinary People. That's Ordinary People on Paramount Plus. Book of Accidents, which you can find wherever you get books. And Danae is recommending the WWE SummerSlam. Was her recommendation for this.
Guys, no spoilers, but it was so crazy, right? Like I could hear the chanting from the basement. I knew exactly what was happening because my husband was so excited about it that he talked about it for an entire day. It was a massively big deal.
Is that
Huge
something that just
day
happened?
For WWE. I can't tell you if you are a WWE fan and you're not paying attention to what just happened, you are missing out.
Well, there was.
Is that something that just happened?
Yeah, there was more than just WWE. Wasn't there also the other wrestling league brought someone in?
Yeah, what was it called? That was
AEW, maybe.
That's the one that has the really big thing. That was like the big. That was the mind blown. Life as a wrestler fan is ending and beginning all at the same time. I mean, my husband was showing me like clips of John Cena chatting it out with Roman Reigns. Is that right? And they're just like doing their back and forth thing. And John Cena does this little wink and nod to what could be coming, and does like he quotes something about how like when he takes the whatever, he's going to disappear into the crowd with a little kiss. And Justin's like, this means something. And I'm like, okay. And then it does. And there was just screaming from the basement from like, I could literally, my floor was shaking.
Does John Cena still wrestles though? Like he's still all in?
You know, he's back. He was gone for a little bit of time, but
because he's got the whole acting career.
What's really interesting is I was talking about this with Justin. Thanks, Aaron. Thank you.
No, I relish my new role as the person picking your Beyond the Sins.
Thank you. So what's interesting for me is watching the people in the crowd, because for such a long time they just had massive cameras and TVs set up that had people's faces on it who were cheering from home, which is a really interesting twist. But now the fans are back in the room and you get that palpable like roar and excitement for what these people are doing. And so what's interesting to me is like John Cena isn't being booed anymore. He's being like really welcomed back in, and he's got the crowd on his side again. And I'm like, well, yeah, the crowd is just excited to be there. I mean, they would be happy to see Goldberg at this point.
Do people get upset when they leave to do acting and stuff? Like when that happens, does that upset fans?
I don't know that they get upset about it. I think they kind of understand it's sort of part of the.
I mean, to be fair, it doesn't happen that often. I mean, it's not like, I mean, The Rock is a rare example of how much it can blow up. And then I would guess Cena might be next.
Yeah, he's got I think it's expected.
I mean, Goldberg's done movies and stuff, but he's not.
Sure.
What about Drax?
He's not on that level.
And I was just going to say. Yeah. So, yeah, I think
Kane.
those guys will definitely make a crossover, and I think it's expected. I think the fans that are big fans of those characters are totally behind it. But the big news of who returned to I think it is AEW, but don't quote me on that because I actually don't know.
I think it is.
The big thing is if you're a fan of this particular person, like just making an appearance, it was absolutely epic. And
can you not say? Because I don't know.
Listen,
anything.
I think there might be some old school WWE fans who
was it the Iron Sheik?
Really want to not be surprised and just watch it and enjoy it.
Was it the Junkyard Dogs? I don't even know if that's a real thing.
Was it Ted DiBiase?
Was it Sting?
Wow,
Sting wasn't WWE.
Sting was WWE.
Was he?
Yeah,
I didn't think he was.
He was my wrestling crush when I was a.
Was it Hulk Hogan? Because people love him so much now.
Nope, not him. I do feel like there's this thing that I joke around with Justin about this. Like there is something called geriatric wrestling, and there's this moment when the wrestlers kind of shift over into like this geriatric realm where their epicness has ebbed and waned enough that when they step into the ring, they can still do cool stuff, but you can see that their bones are aching and they should just stop.
Well, it's kind of like watching Harrison Ford in an Indiana Jones movie, right? Like, you know, it's
there's just certain things. Well, but it's even more so because they're actually doing these stunts with a live audience. It's so different in that way. Like,
you're right.
On a movie, you can shoot these shots and you can have someone throw a punch.
Yeah.
But in front of a live audience where they're really doing these things, I'm like, they're going to break in half. And so, like The Undertaker, when The Undertaker was wrestling a whole bunch, kind of like trying to wrap up his career, I'm like, what is he still doing out there? Because he's just this, he's taking his time for the epic buildup. That's true. But also the man just needs to take his time because he is an old dude. I heard
an interview with The Undertaker, and I believe he's married to Vince McMahon's daughter or something.
That sounds right.
That sounds
Stephanie
right.
McMahon.
They're really, really close. Like that whole... And I only know this stuff because my husband talks about it so much, but he listens to all the podcasts, like
my feeling was,
all of them.
My feeling was the Undertaker is like next in line with his wife to kind of, you know,
take over everything.
Take over everything.
I wouldn't be surprised by that. The other, I don't know if it's Undertaker though. That I think it's
maybe it's somebody else.
Triple H.
Triple H. Yeah. Thank you. That's who it was. It wasn't the Undertaker. I apologize.
No. But the other interesting thing is like, so there are these women wrestlers called I think the Bella twins or something, and John Cena married one of them, and Brian,
in real life, like that actually happened.
Yeah, they had a kid together, and then Daniel Bryan, he married the other Bella twin, and I guess Cena and the Bella split up, and I didn't know this, but it was like a year ago or something because I just stopped paying attention. But in this back and forth between Cena and Roman Reigns, like Roman basically says that Bella got bored of the missionary position with Cena, and I was just like, oh shit,
it's on.
That's a low blow, and they're bringing this kind of content to the mains. Okay. So there's just some interesting stuff that they're gearing back up for a live audience. It's exciting times for the people who love the wrestling.
Listen, I know where to light the fuse, and I knew we were in for about 5 minutes of wrestling content.
I only know the things I know because of my husband's absolute adoration of WWE.
I'm not even a wrestling fan. You got me excited. I'm like, what's? I got to look up stuff. I got to do some Googling.
So, once again, that would be Ordinary People on Paramount Plus, Book of Accidents if you want to read it, and WWE stuff happening all over the place. WWE technically also on Paramount Plus, I believe. No, Peacock. WWE signed with Peacock, I believe. So you can check out some of that stuff there. Anyhow, that's going to do it for Behind the Sins this week. Don't forget to make sure you're subscribed and go ahead and leave a comment or rating as well. If you've got anything you want to send us, mail it to P.O. Box 881, Republic, Missouri 65738. You can hang out with us on Twitter. I'm at Aaron Dicer. She is at Danae Says.
DENEESAYS.
He is at Sam Loomis 13. So for Jonathan Watkins, Danae Hughes, Saucy Jack, and myself, we will see you next week.
Happy Musical Yoga Day!
Oh, right next to the Naval Academy.
Thanks for listening. Send any feedback to bts@cinemasins.com. And be sure to subscribe, rate, and comment. Find more ways to connect by visiting cinemasins.com/BTS.
I'm sure there's a conspiracy out there I do buy, but I can't think of one right off the top of my head. Some of it's interesting. Some of it you're just kind of like,
I believe
the Kennedy assassination.
Exactly. I can believe the FBI had something to do with the Kennedy assassination. There have been too many proven stories of the FBI doing things that...
Well, and a lot of assassinations.
And a lot of assassinations, especially of black leaders. And it's like that if there was proof of that would not surprise me.
Yeah, my wife is fascinated. Meredith is fascinated by the Kennedy
That's
thing.
about the only one, though. That's about the only conspiracy I'm willing to entertain.
Is it possible that, like, there have been... I don't know. I mean, I don't know. The alien stuff is interesting because, I mean, you really don't know what's out there. But
I guess I don't see that as a conspiracy. I just see that as, like, conjecture. You know what I mean?
Well, I guess the conspiracy is, do we have a UFO in Roswell? Stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I don't believe that.
I don't either, but I don't know. I tried to watch that. Showtime's got that UFO documentary series now, which is, I guess they've opened up some files or something recently. There's something going on. I don't know. I couldn't really get through like the first 30 minutes of the first episode, so I quit watching it. It was kind of boring. But apparently that's what that's based on, is there's something right now where all these files are supposedly being opened and, you know, the government's having to turn over information. But if there was something, we would already know. So
yeah, the stuff they're talking about is still interesting. You know, they're talking about actual UFOs, meaning
like
there are videos,
unidentified flying objects.
There are videos of what looks like objects flying at incredible speeds that they can't figure out. That doesn't mean that they have an alien, you know, that they've autopsied. Like that's a different leap.
It's kind of like Bigfoot, you know. It's like one of those things where I just feel like that's something we would be very aware of.
Sure.
But you know, people have theories as to why we're not. So, and I don't, you know,
people got theories. People always got theories.
But I always think that's funny. People will get into those shows, which you watch whatever the hell you want to watch. I mean, I don't care. I watch stupid stuff, but the Bigfoot, you know, Sasquatch hunters and all that stuff. And it's like, you do know though, if they actually caught one, we would already know about this. Like it would be like Like they're not going to be able to hold that off until it airs.
Well, that reminds me of like when you're watching a reality TV show and they're like amping up the danger of the situation. And it's like, look, if they died, you're not airing this. Like the fact that you're airing this, I already know that this danger is a little bit manufactured.
Survivor Outback, Australia. There was that guy that he burned his arms or whatever.
Yeah, that was.
Or he inhaled some smoke and then he passed out into the fire, right? Or almost did or something.
Right.
He had some pretty. I mean, he was very injured. I mean, it wasn't minor, but I remember the trailer for that episode made it seem like he got attacked by a crocodile or something because
right. Yeah, that was Michael Scoopin.
And that's right. And that screwed that team too, because
it did.
And a lot of people think he might have even won. That sucked too, man. It's hard. It's amazing that's not staged because it totally fucked the balance. Well, and then they made that. I still remember this like it was yesterday. Yeah. I have no idea how I remember those. But then they made the mistake of they fell for the other team. Made it seem like, was it Cody?
Could be.
Who was the one that finished second that year?
If it was the Outback, did Tina win the Outback? Was that season?
Tina won. So who was the guy that?
Kobe?
Yeah.
Cody?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I think maybe Colby.
But they made it seem like he had a vote against him, and he hadn't. It was what's her name had a couple against her. But anyways, I don't know. That season irritated me. And then I watched Africa, and then I think I did watch All Stars. I think All Stars was like the last one I officially watched the whole season, and I've seen bits and pieces of it here and there.
Season 8 All Stars, like
the first one, yeah.
It's a great
Amber,
season. Oh,
Boston
that's a great
Rob
season.
and Amber.
Yeah. Yep. Boston
Rob did finally win, right?
Yeah, he's got to win. Yeah. People consider that a win for him as well.
Oh, he 100% won that. They're still married though, aren't they? Yeah. I mean, I think I think that's
reality
legit.
shows and all kind of stuff. Yeah.
I watched that poker show where he went to try to be a professional poker player.
Yeah. Amber's first season was the Outback, right? Wasn't Amber on the Outback?
Yeah, Amber was on Outback. Yeah, she was on. I think she was on the team with Tina and stuff, if I remember correctly.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, the final three was Tina, Colby, and Keith were the final three of the Outback.
Yeah, and she totally worked Colby too, because if he had picked Keith, he would have won easily.
Yes. Yeah.
And she talked him into picking her, and he said that bullshit about, well, I mean, I'm playing a game and I want to, win or lose to the best. Like, hey, you want to fucking win, man.
Yeah, if you're playing a game, play to win.
Like, you're not cheating.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not cheating by picking Keith. If you're picking Keith because you can beat him.
Oh, those first few seasons were so interesting that. Because
chick picking Richard. Yeah. I mean, that makes no sense.
It's like, it's just, those first seasons were so interesting because there was still a lot of people who didn't quite get it. Like, they were still like, I'm here to be a good person, and it's like, you can be a good person and play the game by the rules. Like, you can bluff in poker. That's okay. Like, that's not immoral. Like, so it was really interesting to see. But yeah, that season in Australia, Kucha was like dominating Ogakor. And then Michael, got medically evacuated, and it was over for them. And Ogakor just kind of took him out.
If they had voted, what's her name out, Jerry, if they had voted her out, they would have won, because I think she had more votes than Jeff.
Yes.
Because Jeff was the one that got, I like Jeff. I remember liking him a lot. He was funny. He came back too, didn't he?
He did come back, and he had a big boo-boo. I think, I don't want to say this if it wasn't Jeff, so I will check this and edit it out. It was somebody, but it might have been Jeff, outed somebody on an episode.
That sounds right.
And so, yeah, it was rough.
That sounds right. I think you're correct.
Danae, welcome to Survivor Talk.
Oh, cool. Oh my God.
Are you okay, Danae?
Perfectly great.
No Danae in the outtakes this week. Danae, quick, make an outtake.
Zubati. That was my imitation of connecting to the internet.
Yeah, no, we all got it. Oh
my God. You know who else is in Biodome? Patty Hearst. Patty motherfucking Hearst is in Biodome.
I just love that all our live viewers are like, oh, we're just starting off with Biodome casting.
Who are you excited about being in there?
No, it's just crazy. Patty Hearst is in the movie, like the Patty Hearst that got kidnapped by the Lebanese army or whatever it was.
What?
Yeah.
Jeez. Okay.
And they probably make a very inappropriate joke, I'm sure.
Nick says that's why we're starting late, because they've been talking about Biodome.
My baloney
Check
has
the
a first name.
It's O-S-C-A-R.
It's O-S-C-A-R.
My baloney has
That's right.
His
second name is M-E-Y.
Oh, wait, we can get sued for that, can we?
No, nobody is suing us. Nobody. Maybe Biodome. Biodome might sue us.
Oh, my God.
Patty Hearst sends us a very strongly worded letter.
A stern warning.